This is my presentation on functions in real life, obviously by me. What is a function? Well, a function is like a gumball machine. You input a quarter and you get a gumball. And it is the same because you input something, in this case a quarter, and you output, you get something in return, which is a gumball. Now, if you input three more quarters, how many would you get? Well, that's where a function helps. It is able to mathematically figure out what you need to do to get that answer. For example, if you had if you put in 75 cents, you will get three gumballs because of the process. So you have the input, which is the quarter, the process, which is the gumball machine, which is what spits out the gumball, and the output. And you can represent this in a math way of having the input as x, the output as y, and you'll have the process being x divided by 25 equals y, or x cents or x pennies divided by 25 equals y or gumballs. Now, uses of functions. We have cost of, maybe you may be like, well, I can easily count three quarters. Well, but there are a lot of scenarios where functions are very handy. They can help you figure out the which would be better. For example, should you get a Costco membership or you should just buy from Albertsons? So, for example, if we have the normal cost of food at like a normal grocery store like Albertsons, we would spend $50 a day on food. If you have like a big family of mine, trust me, there's a lot of kids to feed. But if you had a Costco membership, it would cost you $45 a day on food, but it would cost you $200 to start the membership. So if you do, you can represent these statistics into functions. And this is how we're able to figure out which one is more beneficial. You know, would we be better from buying over Albertsons or would we be better from buying from Costco? So for example, we have X times 50 equals Y. So X equals days and Y equals cost of food over X days. Now, oh, I messed that up. It's not supposed to be 120. Just say that's 200. Imagine if that's 200. 200 plus x times, or parentheses, x times 45, which means x days times $45 per day, plus 100 plus $200 would equal y, or the cost of food over x days. Now you can represent that in a graph. So you have the red line is the amount of food it costs for just Albertsons, and the blue line is the amount for a Costco membership. So over so once if you were for example, if you have a large family and you're eating a lot, it would be more beneficial for you to purchase the Costco membership because you will be spending less money overall. Like if this Y was the amount of money you spent and this X was the amount of days, you wouldn't save much money. You would save a lot more money if you started with Albertsons, but for the next 40 days, you would be cheaper for you to buy Albertson food for $50 a day. But once you hit that 40-day mark, it would be cheaper for you to buy a Costco membership and just have it for this part. Now, it would be like, well, if it reset here back to zero, then it would make more sense to buy an Albertsons because if this later part or the after the circle is like only like 10 days because you do need to renew your like Costco membership every once in a while. If it's like 10 or 20 days, then you know it's probably not worth getting a Costco membership. But in this case, if this blue line kept going on forever, you would save hundreds of thousands of dollars over the course of your lifetime. But that's not how Costco memberships work. I know, I'm sad too. But the functions of capability in real life are really just like what I show you. It helps you figure out which one is more cost effective. You know, Albertsons versus Costco. And so I the reason why I like this quote is because the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now because it's that's really what functions are. They help you determine future goals that you can't see from today. You know, it's like, oh, it's like the book of like the book of what is that book called? Um, but essentially that book, I can't remember the name of it. It had something to do with Babylon. But that book was like, if you put 10% or even like 5% of your income away, you could save up and then be able to use that for an investment to like make it so you don't have to work as much. And I was like, yes, that's really smart because those, if you put $10 a day to a savings account, that $10 would be worth were would be worth way more than like a candy bar or $10 or like if you bought a candy bar every day or you bought like I don't know what are people buying these days, clothes, cars, I don't know, but if you bought that type of stuff it wouldn't return as much because it wouldn't be having it wouldn't be into an investment is what I meant. Make your money work for your money. So now we're going to go on to careers in they use functions. Now, these are examples in real life. I did use some of the examples though, but I was more specific on them. For example, if you have, let's say you have flowers and you have like a big garden patch that you are growing, how would you determine how much water there needs to be? Well, let's say you have, it would be this function, which is an absolute function that's flipped, and where the you it's if you water it a little bit, it will be unhealthy. But if you water it too much, it will also be unhealthy. So there's a healthy middle, and which actually is for most things there it's a healthy middle. A little bit of fun time is great, or a little bit of fun time is like perfect. Not none no fun time is unhealthy. Well, it's not unhealthy. I mean, you can live without unfun time, but it makes your life really sad really quick. But way too much of it is like extremely bad of you. Now, obviously, there's extremes. Like, obviously, you shouldn't do drugs, but it's unhealthy for you to do any amount of drugs, even if it's just a little every week. So, anyways, but in this graph, it's like you can show how healthy the plant is on the y-axis and how much water the plant is getting on the x-axis. So you give the plants more water, then will do this function. And because obviously, if you overwater the plant, it will become less healthy. But if you underwater, it will also not be healthy. So there's a good middle ground there. Another example is health. So pounds gained, and for this there's no like, for health specifically there's no like right or wrong way to do it. You can, if you're underweight you would want to gain weight, and if you are overweight you want to lose weight. So how pounds works is, if like you take the calories you consume minus 3 minus times you've eaten today. So let's say if you eaten 2 times today, that would be 1. So 1 times 100, which equals 100. So you take, like, let's say you ate 200 or 2,000 calories, you would and then you would subtract it from 100 and you would get 1,900. Minus that by 2,000 pounds. So you would get negative 100 divided by 500. And that would mean you would lose 1/5. You would lose 1/5 of a pound. So, you know, pounds, it's, yeah. And the thing about this equation up here is that there's a lot more factors that go into it. Like, if you're overweight, then you actually lose a lot more. So you would reduce this division number. Or if you're like skinny, then it's harder to lose more weight. It's harder to lose more weight. So I probably should have made this into like an exponential graph where it's easier to go down. Like, no, I should have done this as like a curved graph, a log graph. Yeah. But anyways, what I'm saying is that this graph is a graph where 0 is in the middle and you can go under 0. It's likely to go under it. So you don't have to be restricted by just the positive axis. You can also go below the positive axis, which is, it's nice to know that. But other functions in real life are sports. Muscle gains equals log 2, where the time you work out and then you have the whole thing and you put it in plus 10. So the more you do, the less each one provides due to muscle breaking down and needing repair. So there it's diminishing returns. You do like an hour, you will get a lot of progress. But if you do like your second hour, you will grow not as much, or your second or third hour. And then once you start hitting the 4 or 5 hour of working out, it becomes um, very small returns. And I mean, it depends on what workout you're doing, yeah, but there's very small returns on the amount of work or actual working out benefits you're getting. But you're getting a lot of benefits if you're just working out for 1 hour per day or 2 hours. You're getting a lot of that benefit. But once you start hitting that like 4 or 5 hour thrush mark, it's not as great. But other functions or other uses of functions are in careers. For example, we have internet towers. This is a weird example, but when it comes to the like Indian Cellular or places like that, they have to install towers. They have to use a graph or a map which to see the best spot to put a tower to get more internet to more people to make a profit. So we have the input, which is the X and Y coords on the globe of like where they're going to place the tower. And the output is how many people can reach the tower and how many people are willing to pay for the internet and how much is it worth installing. You know, I can put a tower on Mount Everest, but no one's going to be there and no one, who's going to it's going to be hard installing because it's so many miles up and it's really hard to get up there. So that's the output is determining where and what is the best place to put internet. Other functions are stockbrokers. They have the input of when to buy and sell and what. So okay, let me restart this slide. Another field that uses functions is the stock market. They can see trends to determine what will happen to the stock. So you can like look at the history of a stock. If it's been going down for a while, like for example, Apple in the 1980s, it was going down for a while because no one believed in the internet. And then so people took their money out before Apple became a big thing. And so, you know, and that's why they sold because it's like, well, the amount of it's hard to put this. Basically, the input is seeing you get to see the history of the stock, but you don't know where it's going. And the input is when to buy and when to sell. Because wasn't there like a statistic that was like if you took the 3 days of the year that people made the most profits in their stock market history, they would lose like 50% of the money they should have made. So it would be better for you to just not buy or sell at specific times. It would be better for you to just have a stock and hold on to it because it's guaranteed to grow value even if it's like 10 years in the future. You know, it's because everything is growing because of inflation. But, anyways, and the input is when to buy, when to sell. You can see the history of it. And it typically betting on the market is looked down towards because when you sell a stock, it means the stock is going to go down faster. But if you buy a stock, it means it's really weird. Okay, this is why I'm not a stockbroker. But the output is the capital or the green paper that's worth something. And this is another function, which is the not a
Hey, what's going
not a function like it's not a mathy type of function, but it still is a function and it can still be used as a graph to you could still use it to make graphs for functions.
on? Let's talk about functions. A function is a small section of code that is executed whenever we call it, also known as invoking a function. When we compile and run a C program,
Whoops.
we begin with invoking the main function. So here's our task. we need to sing 3 verses of Happy Birthday for some reason. If we are only using the main function, we could write it like this. This will be the first verse of Happy Birthday. And if I need to sing 3 verses, I could just copy and paste this one section and then paste it 2 additional times. Then I'm just going to add a new line character at the end. Technically, this would work, but it's considered poor practice to repeat code more than once if you don't have to. Wouldn't it be better if we write this code once and then simply reuse it? Well, we can by using a function. So let's delete 2 of these verses, and we will create a new function. So outside of the main function, let's declare a new function. So for now, we're going to type void and then a unique name for this function. Let's say that it's the birthday function, followed by a set of parentheses, and then a set of curly braces. So I'm going to take any code I would like to repeat and place it within this new birthday function. And if I need to invoke this function, all I have to do is type the name of the function followed by a set of parentheses. I like to think of the parentheses as a pair of telephones talking to each other. That's one trick I use to remember that's how to call a function. So follow the function name with the set of parentheses, and when I invoke this function once, we will execute any code within this function once. If I need to repeat this code 3 times, I will just have to call this function 3 times. We are calling our birthday function 3 times. And there we go. We have invoked this birthday function 3 times, and we have accomplished our goal of singing 3 verses of Happy Birthday. So basically, that's all what a function is. It's some subsection of code that is executed whenever you invoke it, also known as calling a function. A benefit to using functions is that if you think you're going to use some code more than once, you can stick it within a function, and then to repeat that code, you just call the function as many times as you need. So yeah, those are functions. If you would like a copy of this code, I will post this to the comments section down below, and in the next video, we will discuss arguments and parameters. So yeah, that's the basics of functions in C.
So, for summary, functions in programming act a lot differently compared to normal functions. You could take a number and you could turn it into a different number with mathematical functions. But if you execute code, it will change the state of the program. So it will basically be equivalent to a different type of code. So you have the when you call a function, it will be equal to another type of function. This is a fundamental concept in programming, and it is similar to normal programmings but have wider use because you can repeat actions over and over again, and it has more capabilities in specifically programming. And functions are great. They're incredible for real life and for helping you figure out specifically like economic values. But the other type of function of programming functions allows you to make code that allows you to do that type of work. So thank you for watching my TED Talk. I know. Thank you for clapping. But goodbye. And that was the functions in real life.